Welcome in, guys, in the box with this week. We are lucky enough to have with us a fellow FM streamer, a fellow podcast host, AlehStair from The Wasted Possession. Luckily, I was lucky enough to be on their show the other week. They're coming on ours now. Look at that. That's what we talk about. Collaboration. That's what it's all about. Aleh, how are you, my friend?
No, we all grow. Nah, it's good, man. I appreciate the lucky enough. I wasn't expecting to be such a prestigious guest, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Every guest is prestigious, and they get more prestigious as we go. I'm sure as we grow, every guest becomes more prestigious.
Everybody eats. Let's go.
Exactly. That's how we roll. Cool. So we will be going through the 5 questions. They're the standard 5 questions. People who are watching the show will know what they are. The answers are always different, but we will start with the most obvious question, which is question number 1. So, Aleh, what is your first memory of football?
It's weird. Like I remember watching football when I was younger. My dad was a Manchester United fan. My aunt was a big Chelsea fan. So whenever they were playing, we'd go to my grandparents' house. And I'd just be like a little shit because I knew my dad would be supporting Manchester United and say I want the blue team to win. But I'd say the first memory that I had was where I proper was like, okay, let's go. I think it was the 2003-04 season. Ruud van Nistelrooy took the ball from the halfway line against Fulham, did their entire team, seemed to mess it up at the end, still managed to pop a shot off and bang it in. Yeah, and that's when I was like, okay, because I was like, if he can make that, because if he can make that error, carry on, still score a fantastic goal, then that was the bit for me where I was like, oh, there's a little bit of something to this. That was the one where I thought, yeah, this is I'm going to start paying a bit more attention now. That's the one that got me in, sort of thing.
Yeah. So obviously, from that point of view as well, your dad must have been happy because all of a sudden you're a Man U fan.
Well, yeah, I think I was always going to be like it was the influence. It was the only team I really watched at the house and stuff.
Yeah.
But and then just looking at like some of again Ruud van Nistelrooy, I loved it when he scored and the whole crowd used to go Ruud.
Yeah,
that was a big one. Ronaldo pinging him into him, and just he seemed to use every aspect of his body to get the goal in, and they weren't always the cleanest finishes, but
no.
You knew that he'd score them.
Yeah.
I'd say a close second would be Louis Saha's scissor kick against Blackburn, where he intentionally hit it such a way from the crossbar it spun into the top left. That was a special one as well. But the Ruud van Nistelrooy was really the man that got me in.
Louis Saha really, I mean, I thought he had that very short stint at Newcastle where he was rubbish. But from Fulham onwards, genuinely felt he was a very underrated striker, and he was so unlucky with injuries. Because
if he didn't have those injuries, he would have been a better striker than Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Yeah, he was fantastic. The period of time, I remember him coming in the season Fulham first went into the Prem, and he scored 2 goals for Fulham to put them. I think they were 2-0 up against Man U, and then he came off, and they went through. And Man U came back and won 3-2. But you just knew from then that he was going to be a bit of a baller, and he wasn't even someone who didn't perform when he came back from an injury. He still scored goals, but he just spent so long out all the time.
It's such a shame. Even when he was at Everton towards the latter stage of his Premier League tenure, he was still quality when it came to finishing in front of goal.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. So, number 2, what was the first major international tournament that you remember? And what is it that you remember most clearly?
This is a weird one, actually. So when I was in year 3, it was 2004. So it was the Euros 2004, and we did a little draw in class. Everybody basically picked a team out of a hat to pick, the team that was going to be them for the tournament, and whoever got the furthest would then win a prize in school. Yeah. It might have been the 2006. It was the 2006 World Cup, actually. Yeah. My bad there. And it was my birthday when the draw happened, so I got first pick. And I picked out Ukraine, which was the first ever World Cup showing as well. Andriy Shevchenko up front.
Yeah.
So
Rebrov
that
and
tournament,
Shevchenko. Yeah.
yeah, I was just rooting for Ukraine. They made it to the quarterfinals. They got knocked out, and I cried. But yeah, that was one. Another one that I kind of followed, but didn't really follow much until the final was the 2004 Euros,
Yeah.
which Greece won. And in the finals, when Cristiano Ronaldo started crying, he set me off as well, which
Yeah.
is the only thing I really remember from that tournament. But in that World Cup 2006, I was just backing Ukraine to the max.
To be fair, that I had in the '98 World Cup because obviously I am significantly older than most
I was
people.
born in '98.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Great, thanks. So, in World Cup in '98 at work, there you go. That's how bad it is. At work, I drew on our work sweepstake Croatia, and they finished third. And I'll tell
Yeah.
you what, I'd never been so surprised. But much like you, although you were 7 or 8,
Yeah.
I cried when Croatia went out. So
Nah,
I was
so
proper
close but
gutted.
so far.
You know,
Nah, I was well
Lillian
gutted.
to Rams, only 2 international goals ever, and he scored both of them in a semi-final of a World Cup against Croatia. What the hell? That's not
Man.
not right. Not right. Upset me a lot.
I mean, you went out to the winners, so there's no shame in that.
Yeah, and they came third, so I did still win something. I think top 3 places. So whoever got to 4th place in there, gutted. But yeah, so
Got it,
Croatia
mate.
came. So brilliant. Happy times on that.
Yeah, no.
Cool. So what you remember most clearly is that sweepstake and Cristiano and the Ukrainian team and things like that. Is it then? That's your
Yeah, it
clear
was
memory
mad. It
from it.
was just a completely random pick, but it was one of them because I had Ukraine to root.
Yeah,
Sorry, um, it was more of an incentive. Like
yeah,
my dad isn't English, so he didn't really support England.
yeah,
When it came to international tournaments, so I never really rooted them until a lot later.
yeah,
Until I started watching football on my own terms rather than because dad's watching it.
yeah.
So that was like a real incentive to actually follow the tournament
Cool.
and have a team that I that would benefit me if they would.
Yeah. Your dad wasn't one of those who supported everyone that England was playing against, though, was he?
He definitely was. Yeah, he
Oh.
definitely was. He had a bad he went to a under 18s England game and had a bad
Yep.
experience there. So it
Right.
was all
He was
downhill
like,
from
nah,
that point
done.
onwards.
Yeah. See you
Yeah,
later.
exactly.
Fair enough. Cool. Okay. So when you played football, where did you play most regularly? What was your position?
My main position was CDM. Now, when I was a lot younger, I was quite good at football. But um, I well, as I got older, I started to lack a bit of confidence, and it affected how I was. Like even now, like when I'm feeling myself on the ball, and I'll do something, I'll be like, "How have you done that?" And like there was times where I think, "Oh, sod this, I'm just gonna blast it from the halfway line, and it'd go in." And in those moments, I was good, but I just didn't have much confidence when I was younger.
Yeah.
Um,
Would you sort of
so I
almost downplay it in yourself? So you say,
Yeah, downplaying myself.
yeah,
It was one of them that was like because when my dad was younger and he'd just come to the country, like you'd run home and you'd run to school because if you didn't, then that you'd get beaten up for the color of your skin, basically.
yeah, okay,
And because that was the situation when he was younger, he had the sort of mindset that like confidence wouldn't be good because I'd get beat up, even though
yeah,
times had changed. So he kind of molded me into a less confident form of myself. And like like in primary school when you get split up into different classes for the year, like
yeah,
I had a friend group of about 8 people. Like 3 of them were in one class, 4 of them in the other. I was on my own in the one.
yeah,
So I was just completely like I didn't have any of my friends in my class, and I struggled to make them at that time. I didn't
yeah,
really develop social skills until I actually ended up working in customer services and had to talk to people.
yeah,
So yeah, like that, those sort of factors, just I lost confidence generally, and that reflected in my football. But
mm,
what I could do was play central defensive mid and just think, if I can just stand in front of you, your goal side,
Yeah.
I might not be very good, but I can sure as hell make you not very good if I just
Yeah.
don't let you touch the ball. And that's the sort of role I started to play. And from that role and just looking up, I became quite good at distributing the ball.
Yeah.
My long range passes are probably one of my better things. So I was just playing that sort of role and trying to do that thing, and that got me into the school football team. Um, but yeah, it was I could have if I'd carried the confidence that I had when I was younger,
Yeah.
and had that sort of encouragement, I think I could have been quite good, sort of up front creatively, maybe as a number 10, because
Yeah.
I had the vision to pass, and I had the sort of intelligence to pick someone out, but
Yeah.
because of the lack of confidence, I didn't really push forward.
Didn't want to put yourself in a position where you could be sort of chastised almost for picking the wrong option.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
when once you make that one wrong observation on the playground, you just get, oh, he's not very good, and then
Yeah.
from that point on, you're not getting passed to during break time. They're looking for an excuse to throw you in goals.
Yeah.
So it was just,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a vicious cycle, and that's what it ultimately like boiled down to. But if I'd managed to keep that confidence, I think I would have been a lot better than I was.
Yeah, I mean, you said there that you sort of lack the social skills. Obviously, people wouldn't know that now because you're very sort of you're exuberant when you do
Oh yeah.
your own streams, when you do the podcast stuff with the Waste of Possession guys. Did you find that when you got into that school team, you started to interact, make more friends, that sort of thing, or was it still kind of you in the school team but kind of on your own?
When I got to that school team, it started off like, why is he here, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And then towards the end of it, I remember last game of the season, literally everyone on the pitch for some reason was just chanting for me.
nice.
All their parents were chanting for me because I hadn't scored a goal all season. And that game was like the best game of my life. I was doing everything. I missed because the keeper made a great save. I didn't manage to score, but because of the role that I sort of played in that, and occasionally the left back as well,
Yeah, yeah,
we managed to miss out on top spot on goal difference because at that age, particularly, no one's defensive minded. We had one guy who was, 5'10" in year 6, so he was a
yeah,
centre back,
yeah, yeah,
and that sort of thing. So it was that sort of mindset. No, me and him just kind of stayed back and did the dirty work,
yeah, yeah,
which enabled everyone else to sort of go forward. But when I had that sort of backing, I'm very much someone who kind of needs someone to put their arm around the shoulder and say, "Oh, it's all right, mate.
yeah, yeah.
Do what you're doing," and then I'll flourish on whatever it is. And once I had that sort of thing, especially from literally like everyone, that's
Yeah.
when I started to really come out. Which would have been great to find out then and realize then, but obviously when you're that age, it's a bit difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, the reason I ask is because I know when I was at school, our football team was very much bar one or two people, the same as our rugby team, a bar one or two people. And this is where, I mean, growing up sort of near London, it was very multicultural, but there was still our cricket team. We had 4 guys from Pakistan in our year group. So our cricket team, they all got called into that. I don't think one of them was even any good at cricket, but they all went into the cricket team,
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
4 of
funny
us dropped
because
out.
when I went, because I was quite good at cricket when I was younger. I was quite a good bowler. And when I went to join the cricket team, the cricket team captain at the time was like, "But you're half white. We want to win." Like that was his reason for not letting me join the team. Which then, when I bowled him out for a duck during training, which was open to all, it was one of the highlights of my high school life. But yeah, that was very much that sort of cliquiness. So I do
Yeah.
see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, but I think the core group of it were friends, and maybe not necessarily at the start, but obviously once we all started playing together, it sort of built that sort of friendship to an extent, and I think that sort of
Yeah.
carried on throughout. So yeah, hence the reason for the additional question. Okay, cool. Number 4, and I think you've kind of answered this in the last bit, but if you could have done one thing differently that would have enhanced your footballing ability, what would it have been?
Again, like just confidence
Yeah.
building, but it's difficult to do, especially
Mm,
when you're so young because you don't really understand it to that
yeah.
degree. I think the main thing would have been is that not caring at all. I'm going to take 2v1, shoot from however far I want, and bang it in because I was annoyed because no one was passing to me. I should have just done that more often. Should have probably
Yeah,
been a bit more assertive as well. It's just that sort of self belief that would have helped. Um, and even then, like even the friends that I did have,
yeah,
because obviously we still play together, they tended to be quite good as well. So I didn't really get much of a chance to showcase that.
yeah.
Whereas the other team were like, we'd spank the other team every lunchtime, and we'd score a few goals, and then one of them would say, "That's it, I'm having a penalty." Proper one of them lads.
Right, yeah.
But I
And it's
think
my ball.
maybe, yeah, exactly. I think maybe switching to the other side and just not being in such a not being being like a middle-sized fish in a middle-sized pool rather than a small fish in a big pool would have
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
have helped from that sort of perspective. But yeah, I think that my biggest thing was just confidence. I think when it comes to football, the most important thing is the mental aspect anyway, compared to the actual talent. And I think, players such as Cristiano Ronaldo, prime example of that, I don't think he's not naturally gifted when it comes, when you compare him to somebody like Messi, but it's just the mentality and that eliteness that just brings him so much further forward than everybody else.
Yeah, that drive and dedication is massive.
Yeah.
You see that with so many players. I mean, we'll come on to it in a minute, but you touch on it there. Harry Kane, someone who was poor out on loan for most of the clubs he was at, apart from Leighton Orient, which is why he keeps throwing money at him. But yeah, poor. He was at Norwich. He was rubbish. He was at Leicester. He was sat on the bench at Leicester for most of the time. He then gets one chance at Tottenham, and all of a sudden he's an absolute hero. But that was that drive, that constant determination to prove himself. And it worked out for him in the end. And as you say, Ronaldo, not the most talented. You can tell when he first went to Manchester United, he looked when he was doing all his tricks and flicks, it always looked rigid as opposed to the
Yeah.
fluidity of Messi. But it's got more and more fluid as he's gone. And he's made himself the player he is. Messi
Exactly.
was born like it. And it does make a massive difference. Cool. Okay. So those are the 4 questions around sort of your footballing history. Number 5 is all about your opinion. It's number 5. It's the big 5. What do you feel are the 5 key attributes to making the complete footballer?
I mean, I think confidence is probably the one that I'd probably value the most higher, particularly because it's so personal to me. And I've listed the reasons why, so I don't.
Yeah.
We know why I think confidence is the one. I think
Yeah.
determination and having that sort of drive to really crack on is important as well.
Yeah.
There was one guy I used to know when he was 12. He was playing with the 18-year-olds and he was doing them dirty. But then he wanted to, play Xbox and just do normal things that a kid would want to do. And then ended up not making it. He was with the Everton Youth Academy at the time.
Yeah.
And he was the best person I've ever seen on the ball. And I guess having that determination to make the sacrifices and just put it all, just risk it all to make it because you're so determined to do it. I think you can't become a footballer by any means without doing that sort of thing, and take sacrificing a lot. So I think that's probably quite a key one. I'm trying to think. I think.
While you think,
sorry.
while you're thinking, just to touch as well, what you're saying there again, that determination is key because one of the guys who used to play for me in my club was Swedish, went to school. He was the year group below Zlatan at school. Zlatan, he said openly, not the best player in the school. One of Zlatan's mates was the best footballer at their school. But he expected everything to just be handed on a plate to him. He didn't have that desire to sort of progress and improve. And he ended up apparently had a career in Sweden that didn't really go anywhere. And he stopped at the age of 28, 29. And Zlatan's still smashing it out of the park at 40.
Yeah,
so that determination is so key. But yeah, cool. Confidence, determination.
I'd say the ability to work as a team as well. Like we all know guys who are good on the ball but just don't pass. and they're the ones who don't get anywhere. Like I know a guy who played for the youth ranks of Sheffield Wednesday, but was let go because he didn't pass,
Yeah.
and he was good, but he was just had that selfish streak in him. So I think those are the players that always stick out more. The guys who are looking to play the pass. And I remember one of the drills the coach did with us when we were in year 6. He'd have the greedy guys stand next to just anyone and say, on my whistle, he's going to kick the ball to the guy across from him. You're going to run. We'll see who gets there first. And obviously, the ball would get there first because no one's going to run that fast. And just drill into you that, like, you're never going to move faster than a pass. So if you want the ball to go off field, you need to pass it. And yeah, I'd say having that element of teamwork and just not being selfish is probably one of the more important attributes to have for me. In order, it's a team game, isn't it? You don't win things on your own unless you're absolutely elite.
Unless you're Ronaldo. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, Ronaldo doesn't score those volleys, those head-ins, those bicycle kicks, unless there's a killer ball played from the side, sort of thing. So
No.
even the guys who shine need a team. So I think that'll probably go up there as well. I think obviously you need to have a little bit of speed about you. You need to be quick. These are the less important ones, I guess. Just in order to keep up, and even like having the stamina to carry on as well. Obviously lasting a full game, not being intelligent with it. It's not just sprinting for the first 20 minutes and then you can't do anything for the next 25.
Yeah.
Having the intelligence of knowing your limits in terms of what you can and can't do. And even then, I think my 5th would be intelligence. You need to be able to read the game. You need to be able to know when's appropriate to do something or when's not appropriate. Like I was quite good at I used to do boxing quite a lot and I was okay at it, and I had a sort of thing that I do, whereas if I was in the corner I'd just pop something up just briefly. It wasn't quite an uppercut, but it was like in an uppercut position but almost like straight rather than curved.
Yeah.
And that got me out of trouble when I was up against the ropes because they weren't expecting it. The aim was to hit him on the forehead, daze him, and then it's free reign for me, like sort of thing, because they're not expecting it. But if I did that every time, then first time I might get him, second time I might get him, third time they're gonna know it's coming. So I think if you do have that sort of special thing in your locker, you need to know when is and when isn't an appropriate time to whip it out. And when you do whip it out, you need to make sure it's the right time and it's appropriate to do so.
So it's kind of almost like an awareness, isn't it? It's it covers a lot of things, and as you say, that intelligence is knowing where people are, what's going on. I always find it very interesting to watch players who, one of the first things that I always think is when a ball is coming to you, have a quick look around before it's there, so you know what your next pass is, and you know where the danger is coming from. And the amount of people who don't do that and don't even make themselves big just to hold anyone off who's coming in from behind them and lose the ball in silly positions. And it's so frustrating, but it's that simple awareness. Cool. So confidence, determination, teamwork, speed, and awareness. Not one attribute to kick a ball.
I mean, I think these sort of things are the things you can't train, right?
That's very true.
Like, if it's all in you can't teach someone how to behave or how to think, but you can, but you can't. You can only do that to a degree. You can always show somebody how to kick a ball further or how to place a shot or anything like that. So I think in sports that sort of thing is secondary. Whichever sport you're going with, it's always the unteachable things that will come first. You can teach someone how to do anything else.
And it's good because it is the first time that I think we've not had that, and it is a different perspective. And it's the whole reason why we have different people on, but with the same questions, because
exactly,
everyone's going to say something different. The amount of people who have picked shooting, and I think, what about all the other things before you get there?
What about? I think the thing is shooting is attributable to a striker, but might not be attributable to the goalkeeper or the centre back. I think all of the things there are attributable to all 11 positions on the pitch, is what I was trying to sort of go for.
Yeah. I think, if every one of your players has those 5 things, you've got the basis of a good team to start with, which is good. That's what you want.
Exactly.
I think for the next draft, I'm going to put all of these in as my key attributes and see if it works out for me.
Oh, mate, I'm big on the mentals. If the mentals are all green, I couldn't care about anything else for signing them.
Aleh, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on, my friend. If you're not already, Aleh's link is underneath him right now. Also, the wasted possession link is underneath him as well. So go and drop in on both of those. You never know, you might get to see me on a wasted possession draft again in the future, crying or throwing things across a room, because it never seems to go well. But for now, guys, we'll go back to me. Live time. Aleh, thank you, my friend.
Catch you in a bit, Bajie. Thanks for having me on.